All right, I watched another episode of the Vampire Diaries. I watched episode 5. I can't remember the title. And it was really good. So, my first question is, where are the other vampires? I would really like to know, because obviously these guys can't be the only 2 vampires. They have talked about how, I guess, vampires were driven out of Mystic Falls. I always want to say Mystic River. I think it's Mystic Falls. Yeah, vampires were driven out. But like, there is no, we don't know anything about vampire lore in general. We're just learning about these 2 particular brothers, like their history. And slowly, I guess, kind of learning about the history of the town, like very, very slowly. But I'm curious about other vampires. And I have more questions relating to that. We'll get to it. Anyway, so, so Stefan throws Damon in the basement or whatever with a bunch of vervain. And, like, obviously that's gonna end super well. Why not just kill him? Because plot, right? Like, that's the only reason. Like, you could say, oh, well, they're brothers and blah, blah, blah. But honestly, this guy is murdering people and he's a big threat to Stefan and then, to the people he's murdering. Why not just kill him? And obviously it's a writer thing. It's a story thing, right? We're not killing him because we want him around because he's a fun antagonist. So I get that, but it always bugs me when we have this type of situation where we have the bad guy, like where the good guy doesn't just kill the bad guy, but, captures him and, puts him in quote unquote jail somewhere. And the bad guy's going to get out. And I was thinking, I literally wrote here, how soon before he gets out? End of episode, ? Like, and yes, it's the end of the episode when he gets out. Like, he's not even in the basement for a full fucking episode. It's just so predictable. I wrote here, you really think he'll be all repenty in 50 years? Nah, bro. Because seriously, he says, like, oh, I'll just keep you locked up down here for, and we'll reevaluate in 50 years. Like, no. You think in 50 years he's going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry for everything I did. Like, no. Like, I mean, he might say that to get out if he did manage to actually keep him down there for 50 years, which obviously that's not going to happen. But I want to know what Stefan's deal is because I want to know why. I want to know how Stefan feels about murder, about eating people. Like, is he morally opposed or is he just trying to blend into, the world of the living and, he's abstaining, but he doesn't disagree with it morally. That's my question. That's what I want to know. And then also, why not drink human blood? And this is something that I don't understand, because I believe also in Twilight, right? They just hunt animals, and of course in Buffy and Angel, they just drink animal blood. And in True Blood, they have, True Blood. So they've got synthesized blood. If drinking animal blood makes him weak compared to how he would be if he drank human blood, why not just drink human blood? Why not go to a blood bank and break in or whatever? I mean, I would like to know if other people, like, people have to know. There have to be people. We know that there's like this group of people who know about vampires that are in Mystic Falls. But there have to be other people who know about vampires. And so I'm sure that there would be people that would be willing to be eaten. I mean, not killed, but like, yeah, whatever. You get what I'm saying. So I just don't really understand why in all of these shows that they just don't go to the blood bank, man. Just go to the blood bank. Like, why are you making it hard on yourself? Anyway, and where does Stefan get his blood? Like, does he go hunting, or like, does he raise? Like, Damon at one point asks, can somebody like throw him a rabbit or something like that? It's like, does he raise animals to eat, or does he go hunting for them? Like, that's interesting. Totally sort of off topic anyway. I really like the vamp face. I didn't mention this previously, but I really like it. It's subtle, but it's creepy. So that's awesome. I also loved. I'm liking everybody. Again, every episode so far has been better than the one before it, and I've liked every character more. And Elena, like, I just wanted to give her high fives like so many times in this episode. I loved when she said that she's not going to cry about the fact that Stefan hasn't called her, and she's not going to be one of those girls whose world stops spinning because of some guy. And I literally wrote, high five, sis. I was so happy because it's just such a breath of fresh air. So I love it. I love that. And then, so another question I have is, what is Stefan's end game? Like, to just live happily ever after with Elena? Does he want to vamp her? Does he plan to tell her, like obviously he can't live happily ever after with her if she doesn't know, because he doesn't age. So I really want to know what his end game is. And then this question was answered later on in the episode, but I wrote, Caroline knows Damon bit her, but she's not calling the police. And I just didn't know how much thrall she was under. Like, we know that he was scrambling her brain, and she says that she's got holes in her memory. And she says later to Damon that she, like, I can't remember how she phrases it, but she basically remembers things like two different ways. And he says, you remember what I want you to remember. I fucking love him. I love a good bad guy. I love how evil he is. Like, he's just a bad dude, and he really enjoys being bad. In that first episode, I was afraid that we were going to have our good guy, bad guy situation, but, like, the bad guy wasn't going to really be that bad, and he was just going to kind of annoy his brother, but, you know, and he was going to, like, make some big swaggering threats, but he wasn't really going to do anything. No. No, he does stuff. He does really, really bad shit, and I fucking love it. It's terrifying when he said that. Like, you remember what I want you to remember. Like, yeah, he is fucking evil, and I love him. And I wonder if that's permanent, or if that is something that he has to keep reinforcing. Like, would the false memories, or, you know, whatever commands, or whatever it is, will that fade over time? Does he have to keep reinforcing it? Or is it like, once she's programmed with however Damon wants to program her, like, is that permanent? Because we saw with Vicky, and it was because Stefan isn't as strong, so when he, you know, glamored her, for lack of a better term, when he did that and told her, like, oh, it was just an animal who bit you, if you pressed her, she would remember that that's wrong, and that's not what happened, and that it was a vampire. But, you know, Damon doing it, he's stronger than Stefan, so it holds. But I'm just wondering if it would hold forever, or if he has to keep doing it. Oh, and then I wrote, dumbass nephew, stay away from the basement. And then I wrote, yup, dumbass. You always stay away from the cage. Just fucking stay away. Why do you gotta go down there? You're an idiot. And they always do. They always do. And it's infuriating every time. I love that Elena is taking Stefan to task about his vague bullshit answers, and then she bails on him, and I fucking love it. Like, I'm telling you, I wanted to give her high fives throughout the whole episode. And then I wrote, why is Stefan good? Is he good? What are the other vamps like? Are there other supernatural beings besides vamps and witches? So, yeah, I again, like, kind of what I was saying earlier, I would like to know what Stefan's whole deal is. Like, is he a good guy? Or is he just refraining from murdering people because he wants to blend in with society, but not because it's, like, part of his moral code? And then, like, I would like to know what the other vamps are like. You know, are they all like Damon? Or are they, I mean, they could all be, like, Damon could be the outlier, and they could mostly be blending in with society. Or is there, like, you know, a mix between good vampires and bad vampires? And again, what I said last episode, do they have souls? Like, what makes them good and bad? And so I'm just curious, like, what is the status quo with other vampires? Are they all like Damon? Are they all like Stefan? Or is there, like, a healthy mix? And then, of course, are we going to get anything else? I imagine we will. And I'm really curious about the witches. I'm really into Bonnie. I'm into her storyline, and yeah, I want to know more about the witches. And at the very end, she goes to her grandma, and she's like, I don't know what's happening to me. And so the next episode, I'm thinking we're going to get some details, and I'm here for it. And then I wrote here, why do they need to watch? Oh, I thought I wrote, why do they need to watch? I'm like, watch what? No, I wrote, why do they need the watch? So yeah, they're this, like, shady council or whatever. They want the pocket watch, and I'm like, why do they need it? Do they need it for some kind of ritual or something? And it literally just occurred to me that I think it's pretty obvious that Elena is a direct descendant of Catherine, right? Because that was my question. Is she a descendant, or is she, like, some reincarnation? But yeah, her family has apparently been in Mystic Falls forever. So, of course. Duh. That was pretty dumb on my part. It took me long enough. Yeah, so he just fucking shows up and starts cooking dinner. No. I wrote here, GTFO, Edward Cullen. Like, that is such a dick move. Like, how dare you just show up? And I guess the brother, you know, like, kind of arranged it or whatever, but still, no, don't show up when you're not invited. And that's the only time that Elena, you know, kind of, like, I didn't want to give her a high five, let's put it that way, because she just, like, went along with it. And I get that he was being somewhat honest and, you know, trying to make it up to her and trying to tell her some stuff about himself. And, like, that's all fine and good, but, like, you don't just go over to somebody's house, even if their brother or their, you know, their uncle or their fucking grandmother, whatever, set it up. Like, you just don't do that. You ask that person, can I come over and cook you dinner and explain? You know, you get their permission, you get their consent. You don't just fucking show up. And that kind of entitled bullshit really pisses me off, and that is just another thing that reminded me of Edward, because that's something that he would do, just take it upon himself, you know, to do it. It doesn't matter if the intentions are good, it's just not okay. You have to ask first. So that pissed me off. And then, like, what's with vampires being really good cooks? Like, I get that they've had a ton of time to practice, but why would they if they don't eat? Like, Angel and Edward and now Stefan apparently are, like, fantastic chefs. but why? I mean, Stefan clearly does eat, and I sort of laughed, but sort of also rolled my eyes at the whole garlic thing. Like, I'll eat garlic if you eat garlic. Like, we're supposed to be like, ooh, is he going to say, oh, I can't have garlic? And then he's like, oh, I love garlic. Just like, okay. We get it. But, but obviously he does eat. Like, we've seen him, I guess we've seen him eat. I don't remember ever seeing him actually taking a bite or chewing, but like, he's had dinner with people, so he obviously can and does eat, but like, I don't know, if you don't need to eat, why would you be like this world-class chef that all of these vampires apparently are? I don't know. Although, like, personally, if I could eat whatever I wanted and not gain weight, then, you know, even if I didn't need to, like, maybe I would. Maybe I would spend all my time cooking and eating if I wasn't going to gain weight from it. I don't know. Do vampires gain weight? That's an interesting question. Because obviously actors, they gain weight, they lose weight, they get buff, they get not so buff. Like, that happens, and they age, but we just kind of ignore that stuff. Because they're obviously human beings playing immortal creatures. But, yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, whatever. That was a detour. And then, of course, she cuts herself. Of course. Why? Why does she take... Oh, let me do that. Why? He was cutting that garlic perfectly fine, and she has to take over just so she can cut herself. And, like, she must have really sliced open that finger, because she was bleeding, just gushing blood all over their dinner. Like, all over the garlic. I was so grossed out. And then they don't even clean it up. But, like, of course she's going to cut herself, because whenever we have, you know, a vampire, we always have to have that temptation. So I was just like, oh, really? They're actually, yeah, they're going to do it. All right. But I liked that she saw, you know, his reflection. This is what I wrote in my notes. I wrote, of course she cuts her, oh shit, run, bish. Because, like, I know he's not gonna attack her, but, like, thinking about it, like, if I was in her position and I look in the reflection of the window and I see the guy standing behind me, his face gets all weird like that, like, I'm out the door. And the fact that she's just like, oh, your face, what's wrong with your face? Not very realistic. And then I wrote, sis is gaslighting herself. Because she's like, oh, I'm just so paranoid. I must be seeing things. And he's like, yeah, I guess that must be it. Really? Really? Like, what is she paranoid about that she would be hallucinating her boyfriend's face, like, getting all veiny and everything? Like, I don't understand. I don't understand what she's so paranoid about that type of hallucination makes sense. So, but, you know, for real though, like, would I think of vampires? I mean, to be honest, like, if that really did happen and I saw the things that she's seen, right? Or, like, because she's suspicious of him, but she doesn't know. She's not suspicious that he might be a vampire, I don't think. She just doesn't know what's going on. But, like, would I be suspicious in the real world? Like, would I think, oh, someone's acting really strange, maybe they're a vampire? You know what I mean? So, I don't know, whatever. But I just, I don't know. I just always think, like, why don't they run when they see stuff like this instead of just brushing it off? Like, oh, I must be seeing things. But in real life, maybe you would. Because you would think, oh, well, it's not something supernatural. So, anyway. But that makes me want to know what Elena knows of vampires. Like, the town has a history of vamps, but like, is that an accepted fact, or is that just presumed to be a myth? Is that just the lure of the town? Because like in New Orleans, they have this whole thing about vampires, right? Like, you can take these tours. I haven't been personally, but I've heard that you can take these tours where they take you to like vampire graves and like tell you about all the history of vampires in that town. And then I guess they sort of treat it like it's real, like it's historical, I guess. But I think that most of us would just, presume that this is just the lore of New Orleans. Like, it's just a myth. It didn't really happen. So that's what I'm curious. Like, do the townies think that vampires really used to live there? I don't know. I want to know more. And it's a good thing that I want to know more. And then, so I kept getting the crow wrong. So I wrote, okay, so the crow is like a mental projection, not his physical form, so no shapeshifting. Because previously, we'd seen Damon appear as a crow, and I thought that he was physically shapeshifting into the crow. But then we see the crow in this episode. We see Damon in the basement. We know that he's in the basement and he can't get out, but we see the crow in Caroline's window. So I was like, okay, so it's just like a mental projection. It's not, it's not really him. But then later on, we see, like, after he gets out, he ate the crow. So the crow was real, and I'm guessing he's just being controlled. Like, the crow is just being, like, possessed, for lack of a better term, by Damon. So, anyway, the mystery of the crow has been solved. I just wrote scolded and judged made me laugh, but sexy said's car wash makes me gag. Yeah, these are teenagers. Like, these are freaking teenagers. Who approved this? Although, to be fair, like, nobody was dressed like inappropriately. Like they were wearing bikinis and stuff, and maybe some of the guys were shirtless. I don't even know. Like, they were dressed fine. Like, it was all fine. But the way that they made it sound, like, they almost made it sound like a topless car wash or something. And I was just like, these are teenagers. But, whatever. But it was funny, when when Caroline was like, it's called a sexy car wash. And she's like looking at Stefan and Elena, and he was like, did we just get scolded? And she's like, and judged. And that made me laugh. That was cute. They have more chemistry. Like, previously, I really, really, and I do still, I mean, we didn't get any of it in this episode, but I love the chemistry between Damon and Elena. But I feel like Damon is just one of those, well, the actor, who, I don't know the actor's name, but I feel like he's maybe one of those actors that just has chemistry with everybody. But I really like the chemistry that Damon and Elena have. And I felt like they had so much more chemistry than Elena and Stefan. But in this episode, I felt a bit more chemistry. So it's like they're slowly growing on me as a couple. So did Bonnie did she start that fire on purpose? Oh, well, not just the fire. The when she splashes the water up in that one chick's face, because she was being a bitch. And so obviously Bonnie did it. And I just didn't know, was she specifically trying to do that, or was she just kind of, pissed off at her, and like just sort of the energy of her being pissed off caused that to happen. But then later on she starts the fire, and she says, did anybody else see me do that? She asked, did I do that? And Stefan says, yes, I think so. I think that's what he says. I think so. And she asked, did anybody else see it? And of course, conveniently, no, nobody else saw it, just Stefan. But so it seemed like and I'm not sure why she started a fire. Like, it made sense to splash the water in the girl's face, but later on she was pissed off at the same girl for asking her to sweep, but it doesn't really make sense that she would start a fire. And she lit a car on fire, for fuck's sake. Like, good thing nobody was in it. So anyway, but I do love Bonnie, and I'm super interested in what's gonna happen with her. And I wrote, what if the ring slips off with the suds? I was actually expecting that to happen. I was because she was super interested in the ring, and I'm like, dude, it's just a ring. Like, get over it. But yeah, she's super into the ring, and we know that that's what keeps him from burning in the sun. And I just thought, man, I would be so nervous if I were him. And I kind of thought, like, he was shaking his hands at one point. He sort of shook his hands because they were like wet and sudsy, and he kind of shook his hands off, and I thought, what if the ring just goes flying off? Like, would he burst into flames, or is it more of a gradual process? I'm interested. Speaking of the ring, the old dude remembers and specifically calls out Stefan's ring. Like, that's a little convenient. He's like, oh, I remember him and his brother and their rings. Really? I don't know. Whatever. But I love how smart Elena is. She's trusting her gut, and she's digging for answers. And I just, like I said, high fives all episode. I dig her a lot. And then I wrote here, yup, end of episode, meaning, like, yeah, that's when Damon's going to get out, is the end of the episode. Like, they're not even going to keep him in there for a whole episode. And yeah, a little convenient that only Stefan saw Bonnie start the fire, but I guess not many people would notice that sort of thing, so I guess that makes sense. And then I wrote, why do we even have this brother character and Vicky? She was an interesting victim, but I literally could not care any less about either of them. And then, of course, she gets presumably eaten for the final time. Because, like, how many times has she been bitten, the poor girl? But I'm pretty sure she's dead. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I when it happened, I was like, thank you. I didn't like her. Bye-bye. Happy to see her go. But, I mean, what are the odds that she... Like, I wonder if because Damon has bitten her before, if somehow he can sense where she is. Because that's a thing on True Blood. If somebody has had somebody else's blood, then there's this connection, there's a link. And it goes both ways, because humans also drink vampire blood in True Blood, and so they can, like, sense each other. I'm pretty sure it goes both ways. It's been a minute since I've seen True Blood, but I'm pretty sure it goes both ways. But it just seems, kind of dumb. Although I guess Damon doesn't give a shit. But it does seem kind of dumb to bite the same person again. Like, wouldn't you find a new victim? But whatever. I don't know. I think she's actually dead. And, like, I feel sorry for her, but I'm also glad because I just didn't like her. So I'm happy to get rid of her. I don't like the brother either. I feel like he's a character that I could like, but right now he's just annoying me. So we need to give him a more interesting storyline. Let's put it that way. So, yeah, Elena puts everything together in the end. I like that. So she knows that he's a vampire. So that's great. But I wrote here, no, you don't go to the vampire's house to confront him. No, like... What the fuck? I know that he is her boyfriend and he's been a good guy, but if I find out that my boyfriend is a vampire, I'm not gonna go to his house in, like, the middle of the night, or at least after dark, or any time, to confront him about it. Hey, so are you like a vampire or what? No. No, I'm going to lock my fucking doors. I'm going to find some stakes and some crosses and shit. Like, I'm not going to go to his house. Ugh. And before that happens, Damon obviously gets out, and I just wrote here, a bit late for staking, buddy. Should have done that to begin with. Because, Stefan grabs a stake and goes after Damon, but then he opens the door and Elena's there, and she's like, so you a vampire or what? Like, what's going on? No. So I guess that's another time that there is no high five for Elena. Like, no. But it's a great cliffhanger, and overall, like I said, I really enjoyed the episode a lot. I had a really good time, and I've been recording for 40 minutes, which is crazy because I think the last episode I did, I only recorded for like 8 minutes, although I've had a lot of coffee today. I don't know if you can tell because, I've had a lot of coffee, but I just generally feel more excited. Also, I was tired as shit yesterday when I was doing this, but anyway. So, I am going to go watch another episode now because I can, and then I will be back to talk about that episode. And yeah, I'm digging the show. I'm here for it. I'm down. Let's do it. Okay, bye.